Hello. Hello, boss friends. How are you doing? I am so excited to be spending my Thursday evening with you, for sure. And excited to see who all is here. So, to get us started, one, I hope you can all hear me. I imagine in the chat any moment now I will be getting proof whether or if you don't. So, I'm not seeing it yet, which means you do. I would like to get us started in the chat today. If you are familiar with Being Boss events, you know that the chat is the most happening place on the internet when we are doing events. So I would love for you to get started with telling us what you do and where you are from. So in the chat, which is over to this side, the way I can see it on my screen, share what it is that you do and where it is you are typing from. I am Emily Thompson. I am the co-founder and host of Being Boss, which is a podcast and community for creative business owners. Many of you may know me from that podcast. It's a top-ranked, award-winning, over 10 million downloads podcast. It is a passion project that turned into a whole company and now an entire community. And I'm so excited to be spending some time with you all here. So it looks like we have Chelsea, which health and wellness coach from Colorado. Rebecca, hi Rebecca, creative coach and pianist slash composer in Berkeley. Dana is here, hi Dana. Own a literary PR agency and based in Chicago. Tracy is a freelance editor and writing coach in Columbia. Perfect. It's so good to see all of you. I always love seeing that bosses come from all over the world. To come and all hang out together. So continue to introduce yourself in that space. If you are just joining in, everyone is currently introducing themselves in the chat, what it is that you do, because bosses are always incredibly interested in what each other are doing, because you're all doing such interesting things, and where it is that you are from. So Anna is a story coach in Tucson. Hi. Good to see you here. Brett, copywriter and content writer in Canada. Another Canadian here, mental health counselor in training. Lovely. Oh, y'all are all in such good company. I'm so glad to see you all here. For sure. Perfect. So as we are getting all in here and getting going, actually, I have another chat thing. If you are a member of the Being Boss community, will you just type here in the chat? Just here. I'd love to see who all is here from our community. We have such an amazing, thriving, tight-knit community over at Being Boss. I know many of you may be a member of our newsletter list or follow us on social media, but I also know that we have a couple of community folks in here as well. So Rebecca, also Heather, Dana, I see you all here. So glad to see you. Okay, perfect. Today you are all here to do, to engage in, to soak up some information during a workshop on growing and engaging your online community. It's a workshop we're putting on with our friends at Podia. If building an online community is something that you want to make a part of your business, or it already is a part of your business model or strategy, but you want to make it better, you are in the right place, because we are going to be diving into some really actionable things that you can take away from this workshop to start and grow your online community. Before we dive too terribly deep, I do want to do a little bit of a Crowdcast how-to. Welcome to Crowdcast if you have not been here before. We used this a whole lot before everyone understood how Zoom worked. We still like to host a lot of our workshops and things here, a lot of our webinar things, or especially our day-long virtual events. Our upcoming CEO Day Live is going to be here on Crowdcast. There are other places to hang out on the internet that aren't Zoom. This is one of them. Over on the sidebar is the chat feature. I highly recommend that you use it. Feel free to engage with each other, ask questions. I'm going to be in the chat as well during this workshop, sort of scrubbing some of those questions for a Q&A later. So feel free to just engage with each other. Enjoy community in this space as we learn more about community. So the chat feature is over to the side. At the bottom, you'll also see an Ask a Question button. If you do have a specific question, you can put it in the chat. I'm going to be copy pasting, but you can also put it in the Ask a Question section. I also highly recommend that you check that out as we get going, as you see that little number pop up around the Ask a Question, and upvote questions. That way, whenever we get to the Q&A session, I can really make sure that I am focusing on the questions that most of you want the answer to. So there is an Ask a Question button down there that I encourage you to use. There's also a poll section. I will be sharing at least one poll. We'll see if during this I come up with another one or two to help gauge more things, get more information from you as we go along. And then I will also be in the chat if anyone has any questions or needs any assistance along the way. Now, online community. So here at Being Boss, we define online community as a place where you're giving your audience an opportunity to engage with each other. And if you are unsure about what really is the difference between audience and community, or market and audience and community, we actually did a podcast on this, an episode this past summer. It was a really good one. It's one of my favorites, on the difference between market, audience, and community. If you plan on starting a community, or if you have a community and you want to really make sure you're marketing it correctly, understand the difference between those three things. Today, we're going to be talking specifically about actual community. So this is episode number 267 of the Being Boss podcast. If you have not listened to this one yet, I highly recommend bookmarking it for later so you can really understand the difference between community, audience, and market. But today, we're diving deep into the topic of community with Ryan Rappeport, who is the growth marketing, or who does growth marketing at Podia. So, Ryan, are you still here? Hi.
There we go. Now you can hear me. How's everyone doing? Thank you so much for that intro. That was great.
Of course. How are you doing today?
I'm great. I'm so excited to be here to talk about growing community in front of all the bosses. I see a lot of activity in the chat. I'm just excited to sort of jump right in and give some actionable tips for everyone.
For sure. We love actionable tips around here. And so that is what Ryan is going to be doing with us today, sharing actionable tips and tactics that you can put into place to start growing and engaging an online community. We're going to be talking attracting new members to your online community, keeping members engaged and active, organizing your community, monetizing your community. I'm going to be handing the mic over to Ryan in a moment, and we will have time for Q&A at the end. So again, feel free to put them in the Ask a Question section over in the chat, and we will have time. The bosses are loving on each other over there in the chat. We will have time at the end to gather or to answer those questions. But to really sort of get us started, I just made available, I think, you pressed the button, I hope it worked, a poll for everyone. So a poll should have just popped up on your screen, because I want to know where everyone stands in terms of their online community. So what is the status of your online community for your business? There are 4 options here. One is I'm still learning and deciding if it's right for my business. So you haven't launched one yet. You haven't even decided if you really want one yet. 2 is I'm committed. So you've decided that you want one, but you haven't launched your community yet. Number 3 is my community is live, but you're looking to grow it, or more like beginning stages of growing. So you're looking for more members and or more engagement. And then number 4 is your community is live and engaged, but now it's time to scale. So do you see these results, Ryan?
I do. Yeah, this is super interesting. I really like this. You're kind of turning me from a Zoom fan to a Crowdcast fan just over the course of this workshop. So this is really cool. I think
that's really hard to do.
Yeah.
Right? I love this as well. So it looks like the majority of votes that are coming in are community is live. so already has a community, but is looking for more members and or more engagement. Second place is still learning and deciding if it's right for my business. And then third place is my community is live and engaged. Now it's time to scale. I think it's super interesting that no one here, according to this poll, has decided but hasn't launched yet.
Super interesting.
Nice.
Yeah.
Perfect. So everyone, feel free to continue sharing with that. And what really comes next is, Ryan, it's up to you now.
Sounds good. So I've organized a little bit of a PowerPoint presentation here. It'll probably take about 30 minutes or so to walk through. But if there's any questions or if you want to ask anything, you can just drop it over in the chat. I know Emily will be keeping an eye on that. And then afterwards, we can do a live Q&A. So if you have any other questions or anything I didn't touch on, I'd love to answer those live and try to help everyone out. So with that being said, I'm going to share my screen and we are going to hope that this opens the right window. Let me open that. PowerPoint. There we go. I'll go full screen. Can everyone see that in the chat? I just realized I can't see the chat while that's full screen. So I'm going to minimize real quick. Check the chat.
Yes,
Perfect.
it's working.
Great. Thank you, Emily. Awesome. All right. So I'll be giving you a quick, probably 30-minute talk or so on just some different ways that you can grow and engage your own online community. So a little bit about me first. I'm a growth marketer over here at Podia, and Podia is an all-in-one platform to sell your courses, your digital downloads, your webinars, and as of recently, run your online community. I've worked with thousands of different creators all over different niches, different sizes. And one of the things that I love doing the most at Podia is interacting with those creators. We're constantly doing customer interviews or checking in on them to see how their businesses are doing. And it's given me a lot of great insight into what's popular and what really leads creators to have successful communities and online businesses. So I pulled together a couple tips and I'm just going to share those with all of you today. So in today's workshop, we're going to keep it quick, but hopefully very actionable. So there's a couple steps to a successful online community. First, you need to attract people to it. So I'm going to be giving you a couple quick tips that you can do, whether you've already launched your community or if you're looking to grow it. I know about half the people were thinking about it, but they're not quite there yet. So these tips are for you, just how you can get people into your community and begin to grow it. But once you have people in that community, the next thing is keeping people there. There's no point if people are joining your community only to never log in again. You want to keep people active. You want to keep them engaged and provide some real value for them in your community. So I'll give you a couple tips on some of the best ways you can do that. And then third, it's great to run a free community, but end of the day, we're all bosses and we're trying to make some money. So we're going to dive into how you can monetize your community. We've got a few different ways to do it. One of my favorite involves creating a way to get that monthly recurring revenue that's so important for businesses. Just being able to predict each month that I can expect to make this amount of money, whether it's $100 or $500 or $1,000, whatever your goals are, it's really great to know you can look and say, I have this many people signed up and I can predict I'm going to make this much on top of all my other things that I'm selling. So we'll dive into a monetization section at the very end. So that being said, let's jump in. So the very first thing when you're thinking about building any community is you've got to pick some sort of relevant niche for you and your business and your audience. And I know there's a lot of advice right now that when you're either launching a website or a new sort of business, you want to get hyper niche focused. And that can work in some situations, but what we've seen that really works best with online communities is something in between. So you don't want a super wide, broad niche for your community, but you also don't want it like too hyper specific that it doesn't really fit enough people. So this kind of follows that Goldilocks principle of like, you don't want it too broad, you don't want it too narrow, you want it just right. So you definitely want it related to what your business is about. And I saw some health coaches in the chat and a lot of other different businesses. So you definitely want to keep it in that area, but also it appeals to enough people that are your sort of ideal audience that you want to get in your community. So a couple examples. If I was running a backpacker travel website and I know that I'm going to start wanting making ebooks and other digital products, I would definitely want an online community based around travel. But if I just said it's Ryan's travel community, that's way too broad. That's not enough. People aren't going to join that. No one knows what it is. But if I also made an entire community around how to travel the world using this one type of Osprey backpack, that's way too narrow. That might be good for a blog post if you're trying to promote it, but for your community, that'd be way too narrow. So instead, I'd probably do something around budget travel. Or if you're a chef, again, you don't want to do all cooking or how to use one type of knife. You want something in between. So I would say do a community around vegan cooking, if that's your topic. This can also work great if you are local and you're trying to build up an audience in a certain location. So I live in Nashville, and if I was looking for some of the best restaurant recommendations or different things people are talking about, or that could be business workshops, I think a really good online community, if you're more local focused, can be based around your location. So like a Nashville Foodies or a Nashville networking group. So once you've sort of identified your Goldilocks niche, you also want to attract people into your community. You can tell people about it and hope they sign up, but this is going to be very similar to building your email list. So what you want to do is offer some sort of incentive to have people join your community. And there's a few different ways you can do this. You can offer some sort of digital download. Maybe there's a course that you're selling, but you want to give community members access for free. You can put together a resource library in your community. And really one of the most important things in your community you're providing, especially early on, is access to you as the creator. So instead of having to try to do one-to-one emails, which gets too much for you, hard for your audience, if you say, hey, we'll do a live Q&A once a week in my community with me, that'll really build some excitement. Plus, one other thing that I've seen that can work really well if you are thinking of monetizing your online community is you can tease it and say, oh, right now, if you sign up, it's free. It's free to join, but some point in the future, I might charge money for this. That's a really good push for people to want to join while it's free, build up those early numbers, and then in the future, they're already a member. So that applies some of that urgency that's going to make people want to get in. And if you are using the sort of opt-in incentive model that you're probably using with your email list, you can just repurpose this for your community. You can just either redo one of your opt-in freebies, whether that's a digital download, you can make a template, just something that you're providing people that makes them want to join your online community. And then once you've decided on a niche, some good opt-in freebies, or maybe that urgency of it's free now, but who knows if it will be in the future, then it's time to promote it. And this isn't anything new. You're going to pick where your audience is. So if you've got a blog with a lot of traffic, put it in the sidebar. If you've got a great email list, then you can tease it almost. You could do a build up to the opening of it and even have a wait list that, when it's open, then the people from my wait list, they'll be the first ones to join. If you're big on social media, then talk about it in your Instagram or Facebook or wherever you are. You just want to think of where your audience currently is, and you don't need to reinvent the wheel here. So you probably already know for your business and your audience what works best, but it can also be really great if you think of different incentives that really fit each of these audiences. So if you're teaching on your blog about SEO, it would be great to come up with a new SEO checklist or some sort of template that bloggers would really want. You can put that in the sidebar of your blog and say, oh, I just made this new SEO checklist template, but you can only get it by joining my free community. So just think of where your audience is, you probably already know, and those are the areas you're going to leverage to try to convince them to join your online community. So what niche do you think makes sense for your community? You can type it in the chat, just kind of brainstorm. But if you're in a certain niche, remember, probably not too broad, probably not too narrow, something in there that's going to have some good appeal that'll appeal to a lot of people, but not to everyone. So that's just kind of a thought question right now for the group. Moving on. As you start having people join your community, they're chatting, the next big thing is engagement. So in the early days of your online community, people will want to join the community for you. You're the leader, you're the creator, you're the one that they want to see. But over time, they'll remain in the community because of the bonds and connections they're building with each other. So there's a couple keys that we've seen over and over to a successful long-term community, and that's activity, organization, and engagement. So the first thing that we all probably know is the number one reason online communities die is a lack of activity. If you join a community and there's been one post in the past month, you're probably not going to feel super motivated to engage and write new comments and chat to other members just because there's not much going on. So this is a common question that people have early on. They say, Ryan, like, I've only got 10 or 20 people in my online community. Like, what do I do? Early on, it's going to be on you as the creator and the leader to spark that activity in the community. But this doesn't need to be another full-time job. What I really like to do is just outline sort of a weekly plan. This way, your audience knows what they can expect, and you don't have to constantly think of new things and new topics to talk about and how do I get people engaged. So just a couple ideas of things you could do every week are if you are in your industry, you're probably up to date with industry news and things that are going on. So as you see like these various news posts or different articles, you can just post that into your community and ask for engagement. A lot of times people will chat about these new popular news items and things that are going on. They still see you as the expert and as the leader. So if you're introducing them to new information, keeping them up to date, they're going to want to keep coming back to try to find that information for you. They don't need to go on the internet and find it. You're collecting it and sharing it in your community for them. So that's a great way to get some conversation and just some real-time updates going. You can also map out a question of the week. So what's great about asking your audience a question is you can map these out well ahead of time. You could probably go sit down over the weekend and map out 52 questions. And so you have one a week just ready to go. That means people are there, answer the questions, they'll probably start engaging with each other. So that's a really good way to have some activity going as well. One big thing that's kind of a fine balance is member self-promotion. So I don't know if you've ever seen some Facebook groups, but when you go in, they can just be people promoting their own latest blog post or just trying to sell their services. And that's not really what we want out of our communities. We want value. We want people to be helping each other more than they're asking for help. And so, but on the other side of that, people want to talk about their work and the projects they're working on. So one balance that I found that works really well is you can designate one day as a member self-promotion day. So that's the one day of the week, or you can designate a topic, and we'll talk about topics in a little bit, where people can go in and promote what they're working on and say, I just wrote this blog post, or I just released this digital product. You're giving your community members a place that they can talk about themselves, and that makes them really happy and engaged, but then also learn about what everyone else is working on too and support each other. And finally, one more idea is you could organize either weekly or monthly challenges. And you can organize a month-long challenge, whether that's updating your SEO or writing a new recipe ebook or whatever is relevant to your community. And then you can almost have accountability buddies where every week or every other day, people can post their progress on the weekly challenge to keep themselves motivated, connect with other members, and that can be a really good way to get some ongoing activity inside of your community. The next really important part that a lot of people overlook is organization. So at the beginning, if you're just launching, your community is not that big yet, or organizing your entire community in a logical way might not seem that important because you're like, oh, there's a couple posts a day, I can keep up. But the goal here is to grow your community more and more over time. And you will be really thankful that you put in logical organization at the very beginning. So what I like to recommend is think of maybe 5 to 10 logical but non-overlapping topics that you can divide your community into. So if I'm teaching about marketing, I would probably have a SEO topic, an email topic. You could have that self-promotion topic. Break it down in ways that make sense. It's much easier for your audience to then go and find the information, and it's easier for you as the creator to keep things organized. You know where it is, and things won't get completely buried. I've seen other groups that have thousands and thousands of members, and as soon as something's posted, it just gets buried within an hour or two. So by keeping it organized from day one, it'll really help you as the creator just to keep everything tidy, but it really helps your audience to know, oh, I go to the email marketing topic if I want to post a question about email marketing, or I go over here in the copywriting area to talk about copywriting. So think about where your current community is today, but also where it might be in 1 to 3 to 5 years. And you can always add more topics later. And the other reason that I say non-overlapping topics is, again, if someone doesn't know where to fit a topic, if it was just marketing and then business and other things, you want it to be very clear that, oh, if I'm talking about email marketing, that goes in the email marketing topic. If it gets too blurry, it can get a little confusing where things go. So of course, at certain times, there's going to be overlap, but really try to think of 5 to 10 non-overlapping topics within your niche to keep your entire community nice and organized. And then finally, as people are coming in, they're engaging, they're active, you have a nice organized community, then you want to start having people build those connections with each other. So I said at the beginning, people are probably going to join your online community for you as the creator. They see you as a leader, you're the expert, you're the one that they want to interact with. But you really want to shift this over time and have your community members begin interacting with each other. This will make it a little easier on you, so you're not having to constantly keep that activity going, even though you still can. But really, the point of the entire community is to have people interact with one another, make new connections, make new friends, make new business relationships. So there's a few things you can do to really kind of get these member-to-member connections going. So an easy one that almost all communities do is you can have an introduction topic. And when someone joins as part of your onboarding, you say, oh, it'd be great if you can go in the introductions topic, just give a brief overview of who you are, what you're working on, and maybe something fun about yourself that not everyone knows. As you do this, not everyone will feel comfortable jumping right in, but an introduction post is a pretty easy way to say, hey, I'm here. And then hopefully other members will go and welcome them and give them that great first impression. Another way of engaging and building connection that I've seen works really well is monitor the conversations going on in your community every week and make note of which ones are like really valuable for other people. Then at the end of the week, you can send out sort of a weekly wrap up and say, oh, just in case you missed it, here's some of the great conversations that are happening in the community this week. And then that gives you a way to feature other members, and it'll get excitement because people get that email, they'll want to go read those conversations, and then they'll say, oh, this is cool, like I want to be featured next week, which is then going to prompt them to go and engage more, hopefully make their own posts, and that'll just kind of build on itself. A couple other ways that you can do are you can randomly match members one-to-one for like a 30-minute virtual coffee chat. I do this in a lot of communities I'm in, and I've had great conversations with people all over the world that I never normally would have talked to. But just by signing up, and you can make it optional because not everyone's comfortable with that. But if you offer that as a feature, then people can connect and just talk with someone new. That's the point, is to build these member-to-member connections and have them engaged with each other. And that's a great way to get that going. Similar to that is you can also set up, say, like a virtual co-working session. A lot of us work from home. Maybe you're a solo entrepreneur, and it can get a little lonely, or it can be a little hard to stay focused sometimes. So you can be the one to set up a once a week or twice a week virtual co-working session where you give a place for people to join, whether it's Crowdcast or Zoom, and people can join. They can maybe do a quick roundtable of, oh, over the next hour, I'm going to be working on this. So everyone shares what they're working on. Then they turn off their mics and their video, and then they go to work. This really helps people feel like they're a part of something, and it helps keep them accountable. And then at the end of the hour, 2 hours, whatever you decide, people can share what they worked on, and then they're really building those sort of relationships with each other while getting some work done. So another question for the group is, I said you could probably divide your community into 5 to 10 non-overlapping topics. Don't have to do this right now, but just give some thought to what would that look like for your business and your community. What's a way that you could break those down into those 5 to 10, maybe 15 non-overlapping topics, and that'll just keep everything organized. So that could be a good weekend project, and just kind of draw that out on a piece of paper and give some thought to what that would look like. Finally, the next and everyone's favorite part is monetizing your community. So you've now launched it, you're building it, people are coming in, they're engaged, they're chatting with each other, building those connections. And first of all, just by running this community, you'll be seen as the leader. You're the creator. You are the reason people are there. So that's building instant trust. It's instant validation. And whenever you launch a new product or want to sell something, that engaged community is going to be an incredibly valuable resource for you. And also, it's yours. Depending where you build it, this is your community and you are the leader. You can kind of set the ground rules and people will look up to you as that leader. So the other great thing that I'll talk about is you can literally monetize access to your community by charging a monthly subscription. So you're monetizing both by having this incredibly warm group that's ready to buy your products because they see the value you're providing in your community. And you can also monetize with monthly subscription plans. So I do want to talk about both of those methods real quick. So first, one of the best parts of any online community is the knowledge and the insight it'll give you into your audience. A lot of creators say one of their biggest problems they have is they don't know what sort of content to make, whether that's a blog post or an ebook or an online course. They'll spend weeks or even months trying to build an online course and launch it, and there's nothing. No one really wanted it. Your online community will be an actual goldmine of information. Every day, people will be going in and they'll be telling you problems they're having. Over time, you're going to see the same questions, the same concerns come up over and over. And that should be a big red flag to you that, hey, people in my audience are having this issue. I should be the one to go fix it. So it'll just give you the ideas. Your audience will be telling you what they're struggling with. And you, as the creator, you can go and solve those challenges for them. So there's a couple ways that you can do that. Some of the best ways to do that, once you see these challenges people are facing, is to use a small digital product. So that can be a smaller template or an ebook, just something to sort of validate, like, hey, I think everyone's having a problem with this that I can solve. But before I launch into spending 2 to 3 months making an online course or launching a high ticket mastermind, I'm just going to build a quick template or an ebook or something that gives them a quick win with whatever that challenge is. So I would recommend going away, keeping a list of those challenges you're seeing, and then you can quickly spin up a template or an ebook, and it doesn't need to be expensive. It can be $10 if you want, and then propose it and let your community know that, hey, I've seen a lot of people are having this issue, so I made this ebook to fix it. And if you want to buy it right now for community members, it's on sale for only $10 or whatever amount you decide. That'll give you great insight to if you're on the right track with your ideas and your digital products. There's nothing worse than spending a ton of time doing a course and launching it and having no one buy it. But this will give you that validation. You're seeing your community members are having this issue. You're giving a little sample to solve it. If that sells well and your members are asking for more, then you know, okay, now's the time to go and maybe make a more expensive product, whether that's an online course, doing one-to-one coaching, launching a high ticket mastermind. But using that idea generation from your community, solving it with a smaller product, then it'll give you the green light to go ahead and maybe sink your time into those more expensive, higher ticket options. And finally, you can monetize access to the community itself. So what we've seen can work really well is some creators offer a completely free access to their community. It's a good way, as I said, to identify those ideas. You get to be seen as the expert. But what's even better is if you can start charging money for access into your community, especially with different tiers of pricing. So we've seen people that have even done like maybe $5 a month, and it just includes community access. And that $5 a month might not seem like a lot, but if you have like an extra 100 people in there, or eventually 1,000 people, that can add up really quick. And that's monthly recurring revenue. You know that people are in your community, they're paying you this amount every month, and then you can predict that, oh, I know that I'll be getting that every month. And that's just great as a entrepreneur to have that baseline of I know something's coming in and I can focus my efforts on other more expensive options at the same time. Plus, with an online community, you can charge different tiers of membership. So we've seen people go all the way from just basic access from $5 to $10, or you can have a $50 plan, a $200 plan, whatever you decide, and you can include different benefits on each tier. So what some of those benefits could look like is you could have a private topic. So when I said organizing your entire community around topics, you could have a private topic that only your VIP $200 a month members can chat in. And maybe that includes more access to you. You can also have VIP group calls in that private topic. Or you can even take some of your existing digital products and include access to them as part of certain membership tiers. So if someone doesn't want to buy your product, your online course outright, they can subscribe and then maintain access to those digital products as long as they're members of that tier. So there's a lot of flexibility here. It really depends on you and your business and your goals, but just having that option of having different levels of membership tiers can be so comforting as an entrepreneur to know you're getting that monthly recurring revenue. And it just takes a lot of that entrepreneur roller coaster off of open course, closed course, all that, the ups and the downs can really level it out, knowing that you have this monthly recurring revenue that you can count on. So we covered a lot of information there. I tried to really distill it down, make it actionable for you, but just a quick recap of some of the most important things that I think would be great if you take the next weekend just to go over and give some thought to. Are first, pick that Goldilocks, not too narrow, not too broad community niche. So whatever makes sense for you and your business, where your audience is, that's a great community topic that you can base it around. Think of opt-in incentive content to get them to join, whether that's more access to you or it's currently free and then it might be eventually paid, or just reuse your opt-in freebies that you're using to get people on your email list. You could just repurpose those, say, oh, there's a resource library. When you join the community, that's where all of my digital downloads are for free. Map out that weekly activity plan. So instead of having to constantly think, especially early on, how am I going to get action and activity in this community? You already know. You know, on Wednesdays, you're going to post a question. On Fridays, you're going to do a news roundup of the week. Whatever you decide, try to map out a consistent plan. It'll make it easier for you, so you're not having to constantly come up with new ideas. And it's better for your audience, too, because they know what to expect every week. I keep talking about organization. I'm big into organization, but divide your community into those topics. That's really important to keep everything clean, organized, and you'll be really thankful as your community grows that it's divided in a nice, clean, organized way. Keep track of those common questions in your community. You'll see the same things over and over, and your audience is telling you this is what they want. So if you can go and solve that problem, you'll make more money in your business. And eventually, if you want, I highly recommend going to those monthly subscription tiers. Getting that monthly recurring revenue is a great feeling to sort of level out that entrepreneurial roller coaster, and people will pay you for access to your community. So the next logical question here is choosing a community platform. Obviously, I work for Podia, so I think Podia is pretty great, but there's a lot of options out there. But these are the different things I would consider when choosing a community platform. First, you want to make sure that they have built-in support for those monthly subscription plans. Even if you don't think you're going to go that route, it's really difficult to have to try to manually manage that of taking payments via PayPal, then adding people to a group, but then if they don't pay, then you need to remove them. You really want a platform that will do that for you. Also, you would love to run your community and sell your digital products in the same place. That's a really big challenge is if people sign up for, say, your online course and you offer a free community with that course, but they have to log in somewhere else, it's just the back and forth, especially if that's on Facebook. There's just so much noise and ads and distractions and people posting photos of who knows what, that you really want to keep it in the same place. If people can log into one place to access the digital products that you have and also interact with your community, they're so much more likely to be engaged and active. You do want that ability to take payment for your products and your community. You don't really want to have to hobble together different payment platforms. And again, you don't want that manual work. It's really a pain. Might seem okay at the beginning if you don't have too many people, but over time, you're really going to want something where this is all part of one area and it can just do it for you. And finally, you want to own your audience. You want to see their names and their emails at a bare minimum. You want to be able to get in touch with your audience outside of the platform if you need to. So pick a platform that allows you to access their name and their email. And probably saw this coming, but Facebook groups fail all of these. They don't have the payment support built in. It's a very manual process to add and remove people. You definitely don't own your audience. So pick a community platform that will support this. It'll be better for you and for your audience. And finally, I do have to plug Podia a little. Podia was built for creators, and we recently launched our own online community platform where you can sell your unlimited digital products. We don't have limits on the number of courses or digital downloads or webinars you can sell, and they're right in the same place that you can run your community. So your customers just have to log into one place and they can access your community and all of your digital products. We don't charge transaction fees. We're very affordable at only $39 a month, and you can get a 14-day free trial. So we've got a link down here for podia.com/bosses. Emily is nice enough to also be a Podia affiliate, so please use her link. And if there's any questions, then I would love to get to the Q&A. But thank you again so much for everyone's time.
Ryan, that was wonderful. I even took notes.
Oh, good. I'm sure you know so much about community, but I hope that was
I
useful.
learned a couple of things. I
Perfect.
loved it. That was wonderful.
Great. Well, thank you.
Of course. All right, everyone, feel free to put your questions either over there in the chat or in the ask a question section. I did get started with a couple because I'm curious about some things. I especially love asking questions of people who are in the platforms because you all have so much access to so much data and use cases and all of these things that, you all can ask me questions about what it's like to sort of have a community and how to best do it and all of those things. But the only example I really have is my own community and maybe some that I'm a part of. But asking someone like Ryan, like, you get access to significantly more knowledgeable knowledge.
All the knowledgeable knowledge, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. So, let's see. Okay, I'm just checking in with the chat. Heather says, I can't wait to get my knitters off of Facebook.
I saw that. That's the goal. Yeah.
It is the goal. And I mentioned in the chat too, I just keep hearing, like, I think people have been trickling off of Facebook for a while, but over the past year, like literally fleeing Facebook, trying to find any solution that is an alternative. Like, it doesn't even have to be better, just an alternative. But also how great it is that there are so many alternatives that are so robust in terms of functionality that people can move off of. We took our Facebook community, we had, I think, 25,000 people in our Facebook community at one point, and shut it down like 5 years ago. Because even then we were like, I can't, fleeing the metaverse, says Mary.
Yeah. I love that. That's hilarious.
Right. Okay. So a couple of questions for you. Dana has a really good, so we're actually going to go to like the end of the line in terms of like the timeline for having a community. Dana has had a community for several years. And so her question is, for those of us who already have strong communities but want to scale or grow, what strategies have you found effective for that next level of community growth?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So I would say integrating in, if you do have any sort of digital products or different ways, different things you can offer with your community, just sort of building that in. You want to make your community members your own raving fans. You want them to do the marketing for you. So if they're having a great time in your community, they're going to go out and tell their friends and let them do the marketing. You don't always want it all on you, but just by providing a super valuable resource in your community, and maybe something different, whether that is you're hosting weekly webinars or whatever you decide, just as if you can make it more valuable for your current members, it'll naturally just grow on its own. And so if you can offer maybe something exclusive or provide some incentive for longer term members and say, oh, if you've been a member of the community for a year, you get this, just anything you can do to keep those people engaged, and then really try to lean on that natural word of mouth. People trust each other's recommendations a lot more these days than just being like shown a Facebook ad. I know that I've joined communities and I found other things just because someone that I know and I respect recommended it. So I think that word of mouth is really becoming like one of the most powerful things you can do. So anything exclusive you can offer, whether that's products or hosting things live, whatever it is, just really building that, and also just asking them, just say, hey, we're really trying to grow this community. A lot of times we forget to ask, and that seems like the simplest thing. But if you say, hey, we're really trying to hit this target of, right now we're at 4,500. I'd love to get to 5,000 by this date, and just kind of giving them, and maybe even have some incentive or a prize if you do hit that goal. So just kind of playing with it, but really leaning on your members to be your biggest advocates and finding ways to do that.
I'm literally writing down another note. I love this. So yes, and for you, Dana, because I feel like what you do too is also kind of niche. I'm wondering if, Dana, if you've read Get Different, Mike Michalowicz's new book. Because if not, obviously you should. I will say it's like a pretty beginner marketing, but like he has an interesting way of thinking about things that made me think about things differently. And it's making me think if there's a way to sort of systemize what Ryan is saying about referrals, and you sort of, if there's a way that you can also contact them to bring them in. Dana, we can workshop this one. Dana's in the VIP version of the Being Boss community, so we can like workshop this one later, because I did just have a really great idea for you. I like this. But yes to that word of mouth. I think this affiliate, referrals, whatever that looks like, can be really, really great for growing community, especially in niche situations, right? Like it's going to be hard to find ads to find, you know, maybe not Nashville tourism or Nashville, what was it? Nashville foodie? Nashville foodie.
Nashville
right?
foodies. Yeah.
Yes, but your Nashville foodie customers, community members, know lots of other Nashville foodies. They go out to eat with them every Friday night.
Exactly.
They're going to be great for that. I love it. Thanks for that. All right. Let's see. Emma also has a question. I'd love to know from your stats, Ryan, and also from the group. For something with an ongoing learning curve, is a membership or one-time payment for lifetime access preferred? Oh, so a little bit of background here. Emma does teaches marketing to businesses who mostly want to DIY their marketing. And so think about just like the constant learning curve of using Instagram, for example, like something where you're going to learn it now, and then 6 months, you're going to have to learn something different. Right? So something like that, where it's not just going to be like content once, but content that sort of iterates consistently. What have you seen work in terms of monthly versus a one-time lifetime access payment in that situation?
For sure. What I would definitely recommend there, I think that's a perfect fit for that monthly subscription model, just because if you're making content that's evergreen and maybe you'll go and tweak it a bit, not have to update it all the time, then I don't mind the sort of one-time purchase. But if it's something like an Instagram or like a Facebook that's changing all the time, that's a lot of work for you to do for that one-time payment. But if you have that on a different tier of a membership subscription, then you're constantly making that money every month. I am a huge fan of that monthly recurring revenue. I've been on the entrepreneurial roller coaster of opening, having a great launch, and then closing, and then just crickets. And I really want to help people get off that up and down as much as possible. And I really think the best way to do that is that monthly recurring revenue. So I think that sounds like a perfect fit for some sort of monthly subscription plan. So you can always try to do both. You can say you can buy the course for one time with lifetime updates, but it's got to be pretty expensive. Or you can say, if you sign up for this community, you'll pay this monthly amount, you'll maintain access to the course or whatever it is with the updates as long as you're paying. And I like that a lot more. I think things are shifting more that way, because I know a lot of people launch courses, especially in the social media arena, where things just change so much. It's a full-time job for you to stay on top of it and update the course and refill modules. It's so much work. And if you're selling a $200 or $300 course and you promise lifetime updates, like that's going to be a lot of work for the next however many years. So I think that could be a great fit for that ongoing monthly subscription model.
Yeah. And I anecdotally as well have friends who have done the one time and regrets. Because I think one time works really great if it's like a set piece of content that maybe you do update it every 2 years, just like zhuzh some things up, and you're consistently making sales so that it makes sense to do that. But it's with something that you know that you're going to have to consistently be updating content. I second monthly for sure. For sure. Okay, perfect. Is there a pricing sweet spot for communities?
It really, I mean, most answers here, but it depends. It really does depend on your niche, on your audience. For some people, if it was $100 a month and it was to get their dream job of some how to be a CEO, like they'd have no problem paying that. But for other people, $10 a month could be a lot. So it really depends on what you're providing and what your niche is. We've seen that the people that charge higher ticket for their sort of monthly fees are in those very tangible results. So if you were trying to learn to be a CPA, or if you're taking the bar exam and there's some online community and oh, it's very easy to justify a much higher monthly price if you think that'll get you to that end result. Where if it's just kind of a more amorphous thing, it can be a little tough to charge. So it really depends. But also that's why I do mention having different tiers and sort of letting your audience pick. It's really near impossible to pick, I'm going to have this one community at this one plan and just decide that's the price, because there's going to be people in your audience that would happily pay more. And there's people that probably don't want to pay that much. So I would give them the range of options so your audience can find what works best for them and just kind of play with it. You can always go in low and then increase it over time. Take a look at what other people in your niche are doing. That can just give you a sort of barometer. You don't want to go in at some $500 a month membership plan if everyone else is charging 25. So take a look at what some other people are doing. And I really like offering a range of options so that way your audience can pick what works best for them.
Perfect. Next up, this is another one of mine. Someone upvoted it, so it's next. Is there a such thing as too many benefits? Because I'll tell you, bosses have this really uncanny ability to just like give until they die.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering from you, is there such a thing as too many benefits, and is there some sort of sweet spot with that as well?
For sure. And yes, absolutely. It's very easy to get caught up and make this like you could pour every hour of every day just into your online community if you wanted. So yeah, there's definitely a line of offering too much. It's a tough line to find because you do want to be active, you do want to be engaged, but this isn't the only part of your business. It's an important part, but if you're trying to sell courses or do coaching or run masterminds, you've got to carve out time to work on that too. So you definitely want to be providing enough value that people are happy to pay that monthly amount, or even maybe a little too much. I've seen groups that are $10 a month and I'm like, oh, this is easily worth 25 or 50, but it just gets you in there and there is value in that. So maybe providing a little more than you would think is fair, just banking on these people are going to give you really valuable insight. They're going to be your biggest raving fans and they're the most likely to buy your products. There's value in that too. So I don't mind the idea of like sort of a micro $5 to $10 a month community just to build that, get people in there, get some money, but then know you're warming up your audience. But yeah, you don't want to pour every second of every day and release every single product you've ever made as part of it, unless it's some very high monthly plan that's worth it to you.
Yeah. And I'll throw in here too, oftentimes whenever I see bosses going, well, maybe I'll just do another thing. Like sometimes the problem isn't that you need more benefits, it's that you need to market more precisely, or you need to, change your wording or update your sales page or something like that. Sometimes, again, like bosses would rather like give than like figure out the real solution or the solution to the real problem, I guess. So that's my sort of addition to that one.
Yeah,
love it.
For sure.
Okay. We have 7 minutes left and six minutes left, but a couple more questions here. You guys have done really great with these questions. Thank you so much for putting them in. Have you seen affiliates for paid communities? I've seen for courses, but not communities. Okay, good question. So,
yeah,
course affiliates is often a thing. Is community affiliates a thing?
It is on Podia. Yes.
I love
Went
that.
right in with that one. Yes. No. So again, that's why I really recommend having a platform where it's all in one. If you're doing it, hobbling it together through, your website to a checkout cart to PayPal to Facebook, it's pretty tough. You can set it up like that. I know there is checkout cart software that can kind of track the affiliates for you, but then you're manually adding and removing people. So again, even if it's not Podia, I would recommend finding a platform that has all that already built in. It's just, it frees up your time to work on other more valuable things for your customers and your audience. You don't want to be managing all the tech and removing members and think you're applying an affiliate code to someone, but not be quite sure if that was the right affiliate. You just want to keep it clean and simple, which is why I do recommend having that all-in-one community platform that can just do it all for you.
Perfect. There you go. Is a thing. Okay, 2 left. I tried growing a community earlier in the year and gave up because it was a failure. Oh, I doubt that, really. But I still feel like I want to create one in the future. Any advice to restart and try again?
Yeah, I would just kind of take the advice that I was saying at the very beginning and be very intentional about how you're building it. It's not going to be an overnight thing. These are things that take a long time to get going, especially those really big ones are very word of mouth. So at the beginning, it is going to be on you to sort of like spark that engagement, to make people aware of it. I really do like offering some exclusive benefit inside of a new community, whether that's access to you, maybe an ebook that isn't available anywhere else, just some sort of pull for your audience that will really make them want to sign up and get in there. So I would just like take the weekend, kind of map out your niche and your topics, see where you're already doing well, and then just try to mirror that in your community. So if you are getting solid engagement, you are getting sales somewhere else, take a look at why is that working there and how can you recreate that in the community. So I definitely want to give up. Nothing is a failure. It's just a learning experience. So you've already done it once, which is a lot more than what many people do. So it'll be much easier just sort of relaunching it. Now you have a little more information. So hopefully it'll go a little better this time.
Yes to all of that. For sure. Okay. Also, Jessica really quick asked if there would be a replay for this. Yes, you can actually just find the replay right here whenever we're done. We'll keep it up here for goodness knows how long, maybe forever if we forget to take it down. But we will also be putting this on our YouTube channel at some point in the future. So it will always be here. But Jessica, for you, when we're over, you can just go back and restart. Then last question, should you launch your community as free or paid? And free if you plan it on it being paid or just paid.
So personally, I really like the model, especially if you're just launching at the very beginning. We've seen it work really well to launch it and say, right now it's free. And you can say for the first 50 members or 100 members, but applying some urgency on that is going to get people that are really excited to get in there. They're going to want to engage. They want to get it while it's free. That's such a great push to get people in there, especially if they think in the future it will be paid. That's a really good way to hit just to sort of seed your community with people that are kind of your biggest fans right away. It gives you that good base to start growing it. So then if you do go paid, you already have activity. It's a lot easier to charge money when that's already kind of going, there's activity going on. I talked about how having just a quiet, empty community is the quickest way to kill it. So by having those free members in there, it's doing you a big service too, of just having that engagement and immediate activity. So if someone does join on a paid plan, they're like, oh, this is great. There's already all this activity going on. So those members that join for free are actually really helping you out too, just by sort of creating it with like seeding content and chatting with each other and making it more valuable for the paid members. The one exception, I probably wouldn't give them access necessarily if you are going to charge like a monthly subscription for your digital products. Not sure I would throw that in too. You might just want to keep it for the sort of discussions and the activity in the community. If you're going to package that with a monthly subscription that includes access to some digital products, I don't think you need to go that far. But I do like having a free launch community just for the discussions to get people in there, get them excited. So when you do go paid, it'll look a lot better.
Perfect answer. Loved that. Ryan, this has been an absolute treat. Thank you so much for coming and sharing all of this info with us. Again, I got some notes. I'm going to go message the team in a minute and tell them all my great ideas. They're going to be so mad because it's the holidays. But I appreciate you coming and doing this. Do you have any last thoughts or tips or anything you want to share with the bosses before we wrap up?
No, I just want to thank everyone. I really enjoyed. There was some great questions and activity in the chat. This is my first time doing it with your community, so I really like meeting all of you. It's super fun. Everyone's so friendly. So, yeah, no, thank you again for having me on, and I'd love to do it again soon.
Of course, anytime. Let me know. Anytime you can come back and hang. I love it. Perfect. I'm going to put in the chat here podia.com/bosses. If you do want to sign up, there's a 14-day free trial, no credit card required, 15% off for life. I've said that a couple of times in my life. Legit, I love the folks at Podia. I love what they do. This platform is awesome. Full disclosure, the Being Boss community is on Mighty Networks, but only because they just launched the community feature. If it had been there 2 years ago, I would have chosen Podia. Easy. And I believe we're putting Almanac Supply Co. on Podia next year, which I am super excited about, because if I'm going to do it all again, I'm going to do it on Podia, everybody.
That's
just so
love
you
to
know.
hear it.
So check out Podia if you would like. There's some really cool functionality there. And if sometimes Lynn will send me little emails of how much money bosses have made on Podia. I think last time it was like over $2 million, and that was probably like 9 months ago or something. Like millions of dollars are being made by bosses on the Podia platform, which literally just warms my heart. And then I do want to say, if anyone does want to join the Being Boss community, you can come workshop your ideas for your community. You can see what it's like to be in a thriving community. You can celebrate your launch, all of those things. Also, feel free to come into the Monday meetup to chat about any of these things as well. We have our Monday meetups every Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern. It is on Zoom, not on Crowdcast, but so much good stuff, and workshopping and talking out opportunities and things happens in that space. So if you are not already a member, you can join the Being Boss community there. We do have a free tier and a paid tier, which is the Being Boss Clubhouse, where more sort of workshops and things like this happen. But I think that otherwise is the end of it. Ryan, thank you so much for coming and sharing all this with us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Of course. And bosses, go do the community thing. I love this for everyone. Y'all take care. Have a great evening, and I'll see bosses soon. And Ryan, I'd like to see you again in the future as well.
Absolutely. Bye, everyone.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Bye.